What I'm about to share with you is nothing short of historic. A brand new immigration law has just passed in the United States, and it's sending shockwaves through millions of immigrant families across the nation. My name is Ashley John, and this is the Ashley John channel. Before we go any further, I need you to do something important. Hit that subscribe button right now, click the bell icon so you never miss an update, and please leave a comment below telling me where you're watching from and how this law might affect you or your family. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear this information. Now, whether you've lived in America for decades or just arrived recently, whether you're a green card holder or have family hoping to immigrate, what I'm about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew about your status in this country. Congress has finally acted on immigration reform. And while parts of this law offer hope, there are strict new rules that could completely upend life for anyone who isn't a United States citizen. Even green card holders are not protected the way they once were. For the first time in modern history, Democrats and Republicans came together to push through one of the most massive immigration reforms America has ever seen. This happened while Donald Trump sits back in the White House. Nobody predicted this level of cooperation. Nobody expected the details inside this legislation to be this severe. And nobody imagined that something as common as a DUI could become a life-altering event capable of destroying everything an immigrant has built in America. What you're about to hear will impact millions of families. It may very well reshape the future you've been working toward. This isn't about creating panic. This is about giving you clarity. When laws shift this dramatically, the smartest move you can make is to fully understand what they mean, how they operate, and what steps you must take to protect yourself and the people you love. So stay with me. We're going to break this down carefully, section by section, so you walk away informed and prepared. The first major shift this reform introduces is something most immigrants were not expecting. Under the new law, anyone who is not a United States citizen will now be officially labeled as a non-citizen. This might sound like a minor technical change, but it carries enormous consequences. Before this reform passed, green card holders were generally treated separately from other immigrants. They enjoyed more security, more legal rights, and far greater stability. But now, green card holders will be placed on the same legal ground as temporary visa holders, international students, work permit recipients, and nearly everyone else who is not yet naturalized. This reclassification is significant because it allows the government to apply strict enforcement rules to all non-citizens without making exceptions. For years, many permanent residents believed their green card was a form of protection, a guarantee that they could remain in the United States as long as they obeyed the rules. And while that was partially true, immigration law has always permitted the government to revoke green cards under certain conditions. What's different now is how far that authority has been expanded and how easily a person can lose their status. One of the most controversial and talked about pieces of this reform revolves entirely around DUIs, driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. In the past, a DUI might have resulted in fines, court-ordered classes, probation, or community service. The severity depended on the state and the circumstances. Many people moved on with their lives afterward without ever considering the immigration consequences that could follow. But under this new federal law, a single DUI, just one, is now grounds for inadmissibility and automatic deportation. Let's be very clear about what inadmissible means. If the government labels you as inadmissible, it means they have the legal right to deny you entry into the United States, even if you already live here. If you travel abroad and attempt to return, you could be stopped at the border and refused entry. Even more alarming, you can be deemed inadmissible without ever leaving the country simply because the law now says you no longer qualify to remain. Under this reform, a DUI, whether it results in a conviction, an admission of guilt, or even just acknowledging the basic elements of the offense, is enough to trigger this label. The language in the law is incredibly strict. It doesn't matter how your state classifies the offense. Some states treat DUI as a minor misdemeanor. Others handle it with more severity, but none of that matters anymore. Federal law now overrides state law, and the federal government is treating every DUI the same way, as a deportable offense for non-citizens. Let that sink in for a moment. Someone who has lived in the United States for 20 years, 30 years, or longer, someone who has paid taxes, raised American children, worked full-time, purchased a home, and contributed to their local community. If that person makes one mistake behind the wheel, they could lose everything. Not only their green card, but also their ability to ever return to the country they've called home. The reform offers no room for second chances, no opportunity to appeal based on years of good behavior. What makes this law even more alarming is that it includes not only criminal convictions, but also admissions. Many immigrants do not realize that simply telling a police officer, a judge, or an immigration agent that they consumed alcohol before driving can count as an admission. In some situations, even acknowledging that you understand what constitutes a DUI offense, such as operating a vehicle while impaired, can be used against you in immigration proceedings. This means that thousands of people who never believed they were in any danger could suddenly find themselves facing removal from the United States. The reach of this law is wider than most people understand. Now, you might be asking yourself why Congress chose to take such a harsh position. Lawmakers argue that the goal is to protect American citizens and residents. They claim that driving under the influence endangers lives and that the government must prioritize public safety by making DUI an automatic disqualifier for non-citizens. Congress believes it will discourage dangerous behavior and enforce stricter accountability. Whether you agree with that reasoning or not, this is the direction American leadership has chosen, and it's critical that you understand just how deeply this impacts the immigrant community. But this reform is not only about punishment and enforcement. There is another side to this law that provides real opportunity. Congress has created a new pathway forward for millions of immigrants who have been waiting for years, sometimes decades, for a chance to legalize their status in the United States. The reform includes updated processing guidelines, new visa categories, and potential access to work authorization for individuals who previously had none. For countless families, this part of the law represents long overdue progress. However, this opportunity comes with a very serious condition. To qualify for any of these new benefits, applicants must demonstrate what immigration law calls good moral character. This term has existed in immigration legislation for a long time, but under the new reform, its definition has been tightened dramatically. A DUI now automatically disqualifies someone from being considered a person of good moral character. That means you cannot apply for citizenship, you cannot renew certain immigration benefits, and you cannot access the new programs that were created under this reform. It is a total barrier, and it stays on your record for years. This is why immigration attorneys and advocacy groups across the country are calling this new law a major turning point. Not because it closes the door entirely, but because it raises the bar in ways that will directly affect millions of people for many immigrants, especially older individuals who have spent decades living and working in the United States. This reform serves as a stark reminder. Citizenship is the only true protection. Green cards provide security, but only up to a certain point. And now that point has become sharper and more dangerous than ever before. What makes this moment even more striking is that this reform passed with strong bipartisan support. Democrats and Republicans, who rarely agree on anything these days, came together to approve one of the strictest and most comprehensive immigration actions in modern American history. And this all happened while Donald Trump is sitting in the White House for his second term. This kind of political cooperation is extremely rare. It signals that both parties want tougher enforcement combined with expanded options for those who qualify for legal status. It's a unique combination. Hope for some, harsh consequences for others. For immigrants watching all of this unfold, the emotions are understandable. Many people feel scared, uncertain, worried about what comes next for themselves and their families. That fear is completely natural, but it's also important to remember that knowledge is the most powerful tool you have right now. Understanding these new rules gives you the ability to protect yourself, avoid costly mistakes, and make informed decisions about your future. If you are a green card holder, the message is clear. You must stay vigilant. You must follow every rule. You must avoid any risky situations. Do not drive if you have consumed alcohol. Do not assume that the old standards still apply. The stakes have changed. The consequences are now more severe than they have ever been. If you have family members who are immigrants, whether they are your children, your siblings, your parents, or your spouse, make sure they fully understand what this reform means. Sometimes the greatest danger comes from thinking that a small mistake doesn't matter. Under this new system, even a small mistake can matter more than you ever imagined. And if you've been considering applying for United States citizenship but kept delaying it, now is the moment to take action. Citizenship is the only way to fully protect your future in this country. It grants you rights that no law can strip away. It shields you from the immigration consequences that non-citizens now face under this reform. Naturalization is no longer just an option. For many people, it has become a necessity. The application process takes time. It requires preparation, documentation, and in some cases, legal assistance. But the protection it offers is worth every bit of effort. As a citizen, you cannot be deported. You cannot lose your status because of a DUI or any other offense that falls short of the most serious crimes. Your ability to live, work, and remain in the United States becomes permanent and protected by the Constitution. This reform should serve as a wake-up call for anyone who has been putting off that decision. The window of security that green card holders once enjoyed has narrowed significantly. In the end, this immigration reform is both a warning and an opportunity. It tightens the rules and increases enforcement, but it also opens new doors for those who meet the requirements and demonstrate that they deserve to be here. Understanding the balance between those two sides is absolutely essential if you want to successfully navigate this new chapter in American immigration law. The government is making it clear. If you want to stay in the United States, you must follow the rules without exception. You must avoid criminal behavior of any kind. And if you want full protection, you must pursue citizenship. There is no middle ground anymore. The standards have been set, the consequences have been defined, and millions of immigrants will now need to adjust their lives accordingly. For those who qualify for the new benefits under this reform, there is genuine hope. Families who have lived in the shadows for years may finally have a chance to step into the light. Workers who have contributed to the economy without legal status may now have a path forward. But that path is narrow. It requires clean records, honest applications, and proof of good moral character. Any misstep along the way can result in denial, deportation, or permanent ineligibility. This is not the time for shortcuts or assumptions. This is the time for caution, preparation, and professional guidance. If you are unsure about your status, consult with a qualified immigration attorney. Do not rely on rumors or advice from friends who are not experts. Immigration law is complex, and the new reform makes it even more so. A single mistake in how you respond to a question, how you fill out a form, or how you handle an interaction with authorities could determine whether you stay in America or lose everything you've worked for. The reality is that immigration in the United States has entered a new era. The rules are stricter, the enforcement is stronger, and the margin for error is smaller than it has ever been. But for those who understand the system and take the right steps, there is still a future here. There is still opportunity. There is still hope. As always, I'll be here on the Ashley John channel to keep you updated, informed, and prepared for whatever comes next. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any critical updates. Leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts on this new law. How do you think it will affect immigrant communities? Do you agree with the changes, or do you think Congress went too far? And please share this video with your family and friends. Information like this can change lives.